Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nic Cage Fight Podcast, where we watch Nicolas Cage movies, primarily remakes of foreign action films, like the one that we're doing today, Bangkok Dangerous, wrapping this up from where we left it off last time after one of 4 kills and a trip to a pharmacy. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we feeling, guys?
Feeling a little bit dangerous. Maybe a little bit Bangkok as well.
There you go.
Ditto.
I still can't get over my original spelling. The note's name is still the misspelling. Just to shame me.
Cool.
And it's deserved.
I'm going to put that in the first upload.
That's fair.
Josh misspelled this the exact way you think he did.
Exactly. I mentioned it to somebody who was like, I misspelled Bangkok. And they just looked at me. And I was like, I misspelled it exactly how you thought I would. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't have any C's in it. And I was like, I imagine my surprise. So where we last left Joe, he was going into a pharmacy to get some disinfectant, but little did he know it was going to change the course of this job. Maybe
I felt like there should have been some like acoustic rock over this, like a rom-com when the two main characters meet for the first time.
Yeah, in the Thai version, it's like a very subtle horn section with some nice strings in the background.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
That's appropriate.
yeah.
Oh no, I want like Ants Marching by fucking Dave Matthews Band or something. Like just some generic acoustic rock that dictate that, like, you know, lets the audience know that these two people are gonna fall in love.
Or to like localize it for New Jersey, some Daphne Loves Derby.
Yeah.
Fucking Sybil Starving to Be Safe playing in the background.
So Joe is looking for disinfectant, but the woman working at the counter is deaf. So he shows her his wounded shoulder so she understands what he's looking for, and she pantomimes instructions as to how to take the meds. Joe is clearly smitten. I say it sort of like cavalierly, but this is a bit of kudos to Nic Cage because it's not, I would say, like over directed. He does a good job of showing. He's like, wow, I really like that lady. Probably because she couldn't hear anything I was saying.
Yeah.
But from there, we cut to Kong, who is back at the club, and he has bought a pair of fancy earrings for the dancer that he has been working with as a courier.
Oh, he's trying to Drake this girl, isn't he?
I don't want to ask the context of that because it could
Drake,
mean a number of things.
Drake just falls in love with strippers. I mean it in the not horrific way.
I was, then you might want to switch it up. Saying like what was it? It was T-Pain's song, "The Fell in Love with a Stripper." You could have gone T-Pain. He hasn't been canceled yet.
Could have. If T-Pain ever gets canceled, I'm gonna be very sad.
Yeah,
same.
Because that means I cannot listen to like half the discography of The Lonely Island anymore.
That man fucked a mermaid.
I would never be able to watch Freaknik the musical again, and I fucking love Freaknik the musical. Have that on DVD.
T-Pain, just don't do anything that would make us sad, please.
I agree with that. Ryan, have you seen Freaknik?
I have not. No.
I have to lend it to you.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. We'll have a media like swap day. I'll hand you a pile of books. You hand me that.
100%. And I can't believe you haven't seen it. I have a very busy weekend, but I've got to figure out how to get you this DVD.
All right, solid.
So on his way back to Joe with the latest package, Kong is knocked off of his scooter by a gang he apparently owes money to. I was a little disappointed that they never elaborate on this story because the like lead guy is like wearing a denim jacket and has kind of like a Fu Manchu mustache and like a helmet on. They look like an interesting cast of characters, but we don't see him after this. They knock Kong off the bike. They beat him up a little bit, but he pulls out a pocket knife and does like a little spin around on the ground move where he cuts all of their legs.
Fucking severs all of their Achilles tendons, and they roll up like lampshades.
Not quite.
It's not that cool.
It's so funny because it's like otherwise like I don't know if they were trying to like subvert some action trope, because it is exactly that kind of scene where he spins around in the circle, but all he does is give these guys a tiny flesh wound on their calves and distract them for a second so he can just bolt down the alleyway, and they immediately set off in pursuit. He manages to shake him off by like jumping into a tuk-tuk, like a rickshaw or whatever, as it's like rolling down the street. So he gets away and he arrives at Joe's, and he is lumped up from the beating he took. And Joe is upset the case has been opened, but Kong says it broke. Nobody opened it. It broke because of the muggers. And so I did like this scene because Joe's like, go get a beer from the fridge to hold against your swollen face. Like it's the first line is like, oh, he's showing a crack in his icy demeanor, and he was like, no, he's just trying to get that gross swelling to go down. So Kong did see the contents of the case, which is the next dossier for the target for Joe, and Kong mentions that man is a bad man, and asks if Joe is going to kill the bad man. He also asks Joe to teach me how to do what you do. And Joe grips him up and considers killing him. This is a major breach in the layers of protection that Joe has built up around himself. And Kong just repeats his plea that Joe teach him. And so Joe responds by sort of aggressively and threateningly show Kong how to block knife strikes. It's a fun scene, but it is also one of those like action scenes where it's all I don't even remember what martial arts style it's based off of, but it's all those like rolly wrist and forearm bits.
It's supposed to be Wing Chun.
Wing Chun. All right.
Oh, that's called.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Thanks, IMDb trivia.
They love to do this in action films, but I've yet to see it effectively deployed in a combat sport. So I'm a little dubious on that. It looks pretty though, and the scene is entertaining enough. And so like Joe goes through these series of blocks with Kong, and then he turns to walk away and then goes to hit him with the knife again, and Kong immediately goes through. It's a very Karate Kid fucking bit at the end there where Kong sort of does it on instinct. And Joe explains that was his first lesson. So after this, we get a bit of inner monologuing where Joe is pondering why he didn't just kill Kong. He thinks it's because he finds some similarities between himself and Kong. And then we get a training fucking montage. I love a good montage.
Oh,
Do you
man.
guys like montages?
I love a montage.
It's a good montage. My favorite bit from this is that Kong is bad at firearms. The reason why this is my favorite bit here is because it looks like they are just outside the back of the apartment Joe is renting, shooting into the building next door.
Yeah.
He's like standing outside of one building facing another domestic building, like a residential building, and Kong is just shooting the fucking wall, missing these like lined up watermelons that they had.
Yeah, missing wildly.
Yeah, real bad. Kong also provides Joe some context on this next target, who is a sex trafficker of some sort. As Joe burns the dossier, we see that this guy is supposed to die at a hotel, and it's supposed to look like an accidental death. So the next thing we see is Joe sneaking through a hotel suite that is dark, and he is nearly seen when he approaches the bed and a woman sits up in the bed. Turns out the target's not there. He's out by the pool with another woman and a bodyguard. So the target goes for a late night swim, which if you have a setup like that, I fucking get. That seems like it's fun and relaxing.
Yeah.
Joe somehow manages to slip into the pool unseen by the guard and the target and the woman, and pulls the man underwater to choke him unconscious and let him drown, was my initial thought, but that's not. It looks like Joe just fucking chokes him to death and then leaves him underwater, which an autopsy is going to reveal that he didn't die by drowning, Joe. That's sloppy work. You gotta get some water up in those lungs.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I'm just like, what? Like, I figured he would like dive down and be like, I could like hold my breath longer and like maybe drag him under and just start like punching his stomach to kind of make him breathe or something.
That would have been a good idea too. Or just
Yeah.
choke him until he's unconscious and then let him go. And then when he comes to, after he sucks down a couple of lungfuls of water, choke him out again. You're done. Easy peasy. Anyway, this is a minor thing to get hung up on, but I did notice it, so I'm sharing it with you, the listener. Kong is in the middle of training when the news comes on that this target died in his pool. Then we see Joe and Kong sort of doing calisthenics, like fucking stretching and shit and doing push-ups. And Kong is asking Joe questions that Joe is kind of like reluctant to answer. Like, he's agreed to teach this kid, but there is some obvious, I think the whole point of this scene is Joe's reluctance to opening up in any way, shape, or form, even to relatively benign non-personal questions.
Right. Like to him, like I would think he'd be fine answering questions like, I'm just gonna kill you in like 36 hours anyway. Who cares?
Well, I think Joe has effectively abandoned that. When he doesn't kill Kong for calling him out as a hitman, the concept of offing him at the end of the job is effectively over for the moment.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I read it as well.
Joe goes back to the pharmacy, and there is a great scene here where Joe is like stalling before he goes into the pharmacy, and there's a lady. It looks like she's just got a gigantic mortar and pestle, but she looks like a street like food vendor. And he's like trying to feign interest in what she's doing, and she holds up some squid or octopus thing in front of him. And is like, huh? And he's like, no. He walks into the pharmacy.
Nah, never mind. I'm good.
No, I would have been like, yeah.
Hell
What
yeah.
are you gonna do with that? Fuck
I
yeah.
would have been all in at that point. But presumably, because they don't play this out anymore, I'm assuming the street vendor just threw the fucking cephalopod into the gigantic mortar and pestle and just crushed it into whatever mash she was making. We got no glimpse of the cuisine, and I'm very upset
squid
about
sausage.
that. So, Joe, with the help of the pharmacist's coworker, invites her to dinner. She accepts, and we see them at a nice restaurant, which is another very funny scene because everything Joe is eating is like the spiciest thing he's ever eaten. He is fucking sweating. He is having a hard time with this.
I mean, this has some good advice though. Like she hands him the Thai basil, like eat this, and it cools it down. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you do. A little bit of Thai basil actually does cut the spice.
Oh, that was Thai. I thought it was mint. I thought it was mint leaves.
Oh.
Nah, it was definitely Thai basil. My mom actually grows that, and she's always like, "What do I do with this? I know it looks pretty in my garden." I'm like, "You eat it. Make a pesto. It's delicious."
Use it if you're eating something real fucking spicy.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, she likes spicy food to begin with. She doesn't need the spice cut or anything like that.
Gotcha. So the pharmacist is nice to Joe, giving him the Thai basil leaves to eat, and Joe's like, oh, that's much better. But then she immediately pours him a bowl of soup that he eats, and he's like, it's spicy again. And she fucking laughs at him and hands him the entire sprig of it, which is funny. So the scene plays as cute, and it is if you can get past the fucking weirdness of the situation, which is a several layers deep communication issue between these two people. But everybody seems like a consenting adult, so I'm not going to read into it too much. We cut in between scenes of Kong and Joe training and Joe hanging out with his new romantic interest. At this point, Kong goes back to the club. And as soon as he goes in, he gets assaulted with advertisements for goods and services. Here are examples of what he experienced right now. It's very harrowing. Please, warning for all of our listeners.
Okay, for those of you paying attention, the content warning is now over. We can go back to the movie.
Whew. Scary stuff.
Yeah, that was like one
no.
of those YouTube videos that says skip ahead to this moment to cut out the stuff you don't want to hear about.
Yeah. Yep.
We needed that.
You mean
Yeah,
the skip
absolutely.
button?
Yeah, we put in trigger warnings for our listeners that are triggered by capitalism. It's very understandable. So no, Kong goes back to the club and he gets the number of the dancer he's been hitting on this whole time. Good for him. You go, Kong.
Happy for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for now. We're happy for him for now because it doesn't play out super great. So the gangsters seem to get curious to know more about Joe and set about following Kong after his most recent pickup. Kong, however, notices that he's being followed. So I missed expanding on a bit earlier in the film. Might as well get it out of the way now because it comes into play several times. It's kind of a minor bit, but it is a repeated bit. So here you go. When Joe first starts training Kong, he is like walking him down the street and talking to him about the observational abilities that you need to have in this line of work. Primarily, he describes where they are as now he might be talking about cities in general, but in this specific example, he says this is a city of mirrors. You've got, panes of glass, side view mirrors on Vespas, puddles of water. You can see everywhere. You got eyes in the back of your head. So Kong took this lesson to heart and was cognizant of his surroundings and realized he's being followed by a vehicle. So he calls Joe, who is hanging out with the pharmacist and is feeding a fucking elephant that's just on the street of a city.
But in the weirdest way, because he's just chucking the fruit at it, which is very funny.
Throw a banana.
He just threw a banana in his general direction.
Yeah, describing it as him feeding an elephant was a fuck up on my part because I didn't see him successfully feed this elephant shit. I saw him bounce a fucking banana out of the thing's mouth.
Yeah.
But no successful feeding. But there's a touching scene where the pharmacist takes his hand and puts it on the elephant's head. So Joe gets to pet an elephant. That seems like a life experience. But then he gets this call from Kong, right? Kong tells him he's being followed, and Joe directs him to go down to the ferry, open up the case, drop the cell phone in it, and ditch it, which Kong does. The gangsters retrieve the case from the group of children who pick it up and start fighting over it. And then after bringing it back to the head gangster, the boss, the cell phone in the case starts ringing. I did think this bit was funny, but I found it funny in general, but it seemed like an out of context joke because the phone in the briefcase starts going off and we get a solid 30 seconds of everybody at this packed dinner table. It's like family dinner night or whatever. Everybody looks at their cell phone in turn. We get like 4 different camera cuts of people like looking at their cell phone before they open the briefcase. It gave me a chuckle. I'm not sure if it was played for laughs, but it's kind of excessive.
Good. Yeah.
To the point that I found it funny. So they open the case and answer the phone, and Joe asks to talk to the guy in charge. When the guy takes the phone, Joe tells the man that he broke the arrangement. And if Joe sees his men trying to follow him again, Joe will kill the gangster's wife, who is at the dinner table and has a red laser sight trained on her temple, which is pretty chilling. Joe put this together real fucking quick. That's a bit scary. That would scare me. I'd be like, all right, I'm done following this guy. You know what I mean? That's enough, right?
Yeah, I can just trust this guy, I think. Like, let's just chill out a minute.
It seems like, all right, that part seems scary, but so far he's been professional, and you step out of the bounds of the agreement and he gives you a warning like that. Now that's a stern warning, but there's no actual lasting consequences. I would learn my lesson personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So later, Joe goes to have dinner at the pharmacist's house, where presumably her mother is as well.
Yeah, in the original version, there's actually this great running bit where it's the grandma, because the Kong is the deaf mute assassin in that version, and he's hanging out with a pharmacist who can speak. And the grandma's always like, he's so polite, he doesn't talk much. And the pharmacist keeps being like, he's a deaf mute, grandma. And then she's like, why didn't he say hello to me? It's not hard to say hello. And then she's like, he's a deaf mute, grandma.
That's pretty good. That's a good
that is
bit.
very good.
We don't get an equivalent bit in this one.
No.
So this night it storms, and the pharmacist pantomimes to Joe that her name means rain. So Fawn means rain. Is that what that is?
Yeah, apparently. Fawn is her name. I don't, again, don't really have the context for Thai films, so I don't have all of that like linguistic metaphor that you kind of get from watching like a lot of cinema in one culture, where eventually you'll start picking up on, oh, this name has a symbolic meaning that is consistently used. So I can't really confirm or deny, but that seems to be what the movie's telling us.
I don't think Fawn's name is used at any point in the film. I call her the pharmacist up till now, and I call her Rain from here on out.
Yeah.
Because that's it. That's all I got from the movie. So Joe goes back to his place after this date, and he moves the elephant painting like Kong had originally suggested, and he tosses the hotshot kit that he got in one of the first return cases. So the gangsters send Joe the next dossier without trying to pull anything this time. And Kong and Joe set off to find the target, playing the part of tourists in a boat in this canal. So the setup is relatively slick. They look like a tourist and a local tour guide. And Joe sets up a silenced pistol underneath some flowers at like the head of the boat, and they're supposed to pass by the target, and Joe's just going to pop a silent shot at him, killing him, and they will continue on, and nobody will notice. It seems like a solid enough plan. I can't. I feel like I've done this maybe once or twice in a Hitman game, but I can't say for certain.
Yo, I was 100% thinking through most of this movie that Nic Cage is not very good at playing Hitman video games.
He didn't dress up as a chef one time.
Not a
in this
single
whole
time.
movie.
He did not throw a cleaver to get his kill. He didn't
throw a
like
cleaver. You got to throw bananas at people. It just
he
knocks
didn't
them down.
fuck with an F1 car and make it blow up. None of that cool shit.
Yeah, no, it's very different from the Hitman games. But except for this next part. This next part is exactly like most of my missions in a Hitman game, which I did appreciate. So he has this whole plan set up. It's great. He's getting ready to take the shot, and somebody like grabs their boat and tries to sell them something, which fouls the shot. And even worse, the target gets a glimpse of something he does not like. Maybe it's the barrel of that silencer, or maybe it's just a weird looking tourist, but his hackles are raised. He is suspicious. So of course the target takes off, and now we get a great boat chase gunfight scene. There's a lot going on here. I'm not going to describe it beat by beat because I was enjoying watching it. That's how this works.
Yeah.
So after the target takes off, Kong and Joe park their boat. They commandeer another boat. They take off in pursuit. Joe gets on a fucking motorcycle at one point.
Jumps off the motorcycle into the other boat.
And the motorcycle crashes, and we get a fireball. This is some solid action movie.
Yeah,
shit,
this is
right?
some good action shit. Absolutely. And it's got a great payoff.
It does. Because it gets even better from the fucking motorcycle explosion, because Joe lands on the target's boat. Like, all of the henchmen are gone at this point. He pulls up the propeller motor and chops off the target's arm.
And it looks like it's all practical, too.
Yeah. with the propeller of the boat, with his hand still holding
I
the
think they
fucking
had a little
gun.
animatronic because the hand was still moving after
Yes,
it
it
fell into the
was.
Yes.
boat.
The little
This
twitches.
was one of the 2 kills that I loved in this movie. This one and then a later one.
And it ends with my favorite scene in the movie, which Joe takes his pistol, and he shoots the target dead. But when he starts taking those shots, the camera angle switches to underneath the boat, and we see like a trio of bullets pass through the target, through the hull of the boat, and get those beautiful trails in the water.
Which go further than they should, because
Sure.
as Mythbusters proved, bullets pretty much stop like 1 feet into the water.
Sure, but I'll tell you why I appreciated this scene.
Because it's cool looking.
Right? It's not just that it's cool. It's that every time you get to see bullets whizzing through the water, it's a protagonist failing to get hit by these bullets as they swim under the surface of the water. This scene is, we have all the context. A man is dying out of our field of view, and we just get what is a beautiful shot with these bullet trails through the water underneath. It's sort of divorced from the intimacy of a murder scene, and I think it plays very strongly into Joe's disconnect, at least at this point in the film, from these acts of violence that he does. Not only does it look great, it serves a very specific purpose, because you shouldn't cut away from action in an action movie unless it serves a purpose. And this is my interpretation of that. I love this scene. And the fact that the lead up to it is just hyper fucking violence, and then we get an artsy execution scene. I like that. That's a little bit of whiplash for the viewer, but in a good way. So Kong catches up like right after the deed is done, and I didn't expand upon this too much in my notes, but despite Kong's little bit of hero worship and general appreciation for Joe's work, he does seem a bit horrified when he rolls up on all of this.
Yeah.
But it's a very brief moment, right? Joe gives Kong a case to take back to the dancer courier at the club, and before he leaves, Kong pauses to remark on the individual that they see on the TV screen. There's a dude giving a press conference, and he says that this guy is a good man. He helps the poor. My people love him. He's like you. He's doing good stuff to Joe, which
and
is
in
just
the Bangkok Dangerous 1999, this is the analogous character that kind of like causes the movie to start to break bad, because it's the first person that Kong kills in the original version that is not explicitly a scumbag, and that kind of ruins his life from there on out.
Understood. So, by the way, though, the only problem with this scene is it's super ham-fisted.
Yeah.
Because this dude is the fucking last target. You know it. As soon as the scene happens, this is going to be the last target. So Joe goes to a Buddhist temple with Fawn, in my notes, Rain, and he watches her pray and light incense, and they're walking together afterwards that evening. And she hands Joe a note that says in English, "I am happy together with you." Super sweet, super touching.
Very
and
nice.
She walks on after she hands this to him. He pauses to read it, almost like she's maybe a little embarrassed or is concerned about what his reaction will be. After Joe reads it, he's immediately held up essentially by 3 muggers. At first, I thought it was maybe like the gangsters trying to pull some shit, but that doesn't track with the overall storyline. Which makes what happens next a little more impactful, because Joe very quickly disarms and kills all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, with zero hesitation. Rain, Fawn, being deaf, doesn't hear any of this, but she gets hit with some blood splatter on her back and up her shoulder. And when she reaches up, she must feel the tactile sensation. She reaches up, touches her shoulder, comes back, looks at her hand, and is covered in blood. She turns around and then sees 3 fucking dead bodies and Joe standing there.
Plays out a
kneeling.
little differently in the original version, since Kong is the deaf mute and the main character in that one, and like the entire movie, Fawn is trying to figure out, oh, what do you do for a job? And there's this funny bit where she like makes what seems like a gun symbol, and she's like, "Are you a gas station attendant?" And then during this scene, they're being mugged, and the guy's patting him down and finds the gun in his pants, and fucking Kong just grabs the gun and bang, bang, bang. Those guys are dead. Fawn runs away immediately.
Gotcha.
As you
so
do.
in yeah. Well, I mean, that's a normal fucking reaction.
Yeah.
Very similar in this one. When Fawn looks back and sees what's going on, she fucking stumbles away crying and then flees outright, which is smart. Can't really argue with this. So Joe goes back to his rented place and burns the elephant painting. That is gonna lose him his deposit.
You can't do that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that.
Airbnb is very upset.
100%.
That person paid $7 American for that.
Yeah, no, that host though, that he's giving him a low rating, man. That's not good. Joe is upset. He's repeating his rules to himself now and building some absurd contraption out of a paint can. It looks menacing, right? Looks a bit sinister. So, sure enough, Kong delivers the last target dossier, and it's the very good man that Kong saw on TV.
Because of course it is.
There was no way it wasn't going to be. So Joe shuts the door on Kong, shuts him out while he reviews the contents of this particular package and proceeds to plan and prepare for the hit. Joe considers this last job in his inner monologue with the audience, saying, political assassination wasn't part of the contract. So there's two options. You either just get out right now, or you do it and you get out rich. And then there's a funny line that I thought was going to have some kind of payoff where he's like, believe it or not, anybody can fucking kill a politician.
Yeah, it's the getting away that's the hard part. I thought that
I was
was
watching this with a buddy of mine. We just kept talking about Shinzo Abe.
Well, that's extra funny because before this, I was referencing the contraption that he built out of a paint can.
Yes. You gotta get that fucking homemade Fallout gun to Shinzo Abe, somebody.
The contraption, yeah.
Yes.
we recently passed the anniversary of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he juices the gangsters for more money. And the gangsters worry about how much Joe knows about them. And they talk about severing all links, including Kong and the dancer who's been acting as a courier, who is now basically effectively Kong's girlfriend of some sort. They have some sort of relationship going on, right?
Yeah.
There's something going on.
So Kong leaves his dancer friend and goes to meet up with Joe carrying another case. After he leaves, the dancer runs into the gangster's head henchman, right? Joe tells Kong to be at his place tomorrow night at 6. He opens the case, which contains a rifle, just like from the beginning of the film, and it includes a new hot shot kit. So Joe is reconsidering his new student at this point. While he thinks about that, he considers something else. And what he considers is whether or not he should get one of those fancy mattresses you hear about on podcasts all the time. He gives this some thought. The ad you're about to hear is probably not for one of those mattresses. I don't think we're high profile enough for that, but it's probably for something dumb. And maybe you'll consider buying it. I don't know. But if not, just fast forward back to us talking about Bangkok Dangerous. I don't care.
Plus 15 like 4 times. You'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I heard of the Nectar mattress. I never heard of the Pine Tar mattress. That's a new one.
It's very flammable.
That's the only one that we can afford to advertise on this podcast.
Yep. Yeah.
Hey kids, ever just sleep on a pile of hay before?
The pros of it are if you don't have renters or homeowners insurance and your house does catch on fire while you're sleeping, you want to make sure you go down with that ship. Pine tar mattress.
It takes
Sorry,
extra 10
anyway.
minutes to get out of it because you're just stuck to it the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like my bumper sticker. If you're gonna hit me, please fucking kill me. And so the head henchman of the gangsters threatening the dancer's younger sister, this is our first introduction to that character. And he forces her to call Kong and lure him into a trap. And she does, and Kong is attacked as soon as he shows up. Now, to Kong's credit, he handily fucks up the first dude that jumps him. I mean, he fucks him up pretty good. He's about to bash him with a bat of some sort. I think it's a cricket bat. I'm not entirely sure.
It was a cricket bat, which isn't that called a wicket?
No, the wicket is what you hit the ball at.
I'm neither British nor Indian, so I have no idea.
Yeah, now I'm gonna look this up because I just remember the whole scene from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when he meets Casey Jones for the first time.
Oh yeah, that's playing at the Mahoning Drive-In in PA this weekend, and I'm a little pissed I didn't take off to go see that. They're doing double feature between that and Secret of the Ooze.
Ooh,
I love those live-action TMNT movies.
Oh, okay, yeah. Those. The things that are on either side is called the wicket. You're correct.
Yeah. So anyway, Kong is prevented from delivering this cricket bat blow when he sees more goons holding his dancer girlfriend at gunpoint. He's interrogated by the lead gangster trying to find out where Joe is staying. Joe, meanwhile, is preparing for this assassination. And it looks like good guy politician is in a parade full on JFK style, like an open topped car with his wife waving at a crowd. In fact,
nothing bad can happen today.
Dude, the fucking parallels when I saw it, I was like, oh, they're going hardcore JFK vibes right now, aren't they?
I thought I was going
to be a second shooter.
And, I thought I was going to have to Zapruder tape this and keep rewinding it back and to the
looking
left.
For the second shooter
and to the left.
Where the fuck's the grassy knoll?
That's the only thing. They were like, should we put him on a grassy knoll? He's like, no, that's too.
No, you put him in the book repository.
And just give him a rifle that's known to misfire.
Yeah. So Joe gets distracted as he's setting down the rifle by all the people who clearly adore this politician. Kong's words of praise echo in Joe's head. And then Joe sees himself pulling the trigger. Solid shot at this politician, but then he sees in a flash all the murders that he's committed so far, not just in the movie, but additional hits that he has done outside of the purview of this film, concluding with the ones that ended with Rain seeing him having killed those muggers and running off in tears. Joe collects himself and looks into the scope again, but before he can make a decision as to whether or not to go through with this, he is spotted by the security team, which is fucking all over the place, like you would expect for a politician. And they just open fucking fire on the building that he is in. I don't know if that's fucking protocol.
It is now.
I assume some level of covering fire is required and you got to respond pretty quickly, but they just light this fucking building up. There's a bunch of civilians. Their fucking asset is still driving around in a fucking car and they are just firing into this building. So Joe flees the scene, right? He exits a door into a hail of gunfire, goes down a fire escape, goes back up the fire escape when cops are ascending from the bottom. But he manages to get into the crowd that's just sort of running away in a panic. He steals a ball cap from one guy, a camera from another guy, and he does do the blend in as a fucking tourist bit really well. It's his best move. So they overuse it a bit, but damn, it is pretty slick when he does, except for the ball cap steal. He steals it from the dude who's looking him direct in the eye and is like, what are you gonna fucking do about it?
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because it reminds me of one of my favorite ball cap disguises in an action movie,
Was it
which
Born
is
Identity?
what was that?
Born Identity does a pretty good one.
No, my favorite one is the first Jack Reacher film.
I don't think I've seen any of those.
So the books are like popcorn action books.
Oh yeah,
and
they're fucking Tom Clancy,
I'm about
right?
to say, yeah, they're Tom Clancy.
No, it's not Clancy.
Oh, I thought it was.
Are you sure? What the fuck?
Double check me. I'm almost positive it's not Clancy.
Oh, I'm gonna double check you right the fuck now.
I'm not pretending that I'm above having read Clancy novels, but this is
I
a
know
different
I'm
kind of
not.
popcorn.
I've read a pile.
Lee Child.
Lee
Lee
Child.
Child,
Okay.
Yeah, this is it's I call them popcorn novelists. Like, you've got Crichton on that list for sure.
Oh yeah. You got fucking Clive Cussler if you're into
Yep.
like naval warfare shit. My
Yep.
one uncle knows I like boats, so he'll just hand me the pile of Clive Cussler novels he finished over the past year every Christmas, and I'm like, yeah, cool. I'll read these once and then put them in little free libraries around the city.
If you like boats, I got to dig up my fucking companion dictionary for the Master and Commander books.
Ooh, I just bought Master and Commander on DVD at Goodwill today because I love that movie.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, somebody got me the books, and then my I think one of my uncles, who was a big literary guy, is like, you're
Yeah.
gonna want this as well. And it is a dictionary of the terms used in those books.
Yeah, because there's a lot of
Good.
archaic shit that's only used within that context. I legitimately love old sailboats. I have like a collection of plastic models I've built of them and shit, and a bunch of paintings that I've found at, like, again, Goodwills and yard sales and stuff. I just think they're neat.
The only thing that sunk in from that dictionary, which I haven't read in forever, was, and I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but there's like the term, it was like the drowned baby, and it's like describing a fucking pudding, like just a
Yes.
dessert they used to have on boats back in that time. It was like
yes, I'll
the
have one
most
drowned
morbid
baby,
name
please.
for it.
Does it help prevent against scurvy?
No, you need I actually just finished reading The Terror a couple months ago.
I watched the
And-
miniseries. It was so good.
The book, dude. The book was wildly good. Also,
Oh yeah.
the book was written by Dan Simmons, is the also the dude who did
Fucking Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code, right?
That's
no,
Dan Brown.
no,
no,
Dan
that's Dan
Brown.
Brown.
That's a
Dan
different
Simmons
Dan.
is a fucking author. He wrote what the fuck was it called? It was one of my favorite vampire but not vampire books. It was called Carrion shit. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's about psychic vampires. Their whole bit is causing suffering and feeding off of that, and that gives them, is it Carrion Feasts maybe?
Maybe. It sounds like the Necroscope books from Brian Lumley, which are about alien vampires from another dimension that do that kind of shit.
No, this is Dan Simmons wrote Hyperion. There
Yes,
you go.
and also apparently the Ilium books, which I really liked. I didn't realize that was the same dude.
Carrion Comfort. There's a recommendation for you.
Okay.
The dude
That
who wrote
sounds up
Hyperion
my
wrote
alley.
Carrion Comfort, which is a fucking wild ass vampire book.
Oh, that's
No
a killer
sparkly
cover.
bullshit.
Ooh, hell yeah.
One of the vampires is like a former like Nazi officer.
Yeah, no, this sounds actually very strikingly similar to the Necroscope books, which I love. You should check those out.
Depending on when those came out, they probably took a lot of inspiration.
They
from
were
this.
also the 80s.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Dan Simmons has written some fucking fire shit. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, he wrote Hyperion. That book fucking rolls.
I know. It fucking whips so much ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Joe loses himself in the crowd, and once he gets clear, he steals a car and takes it back to where he's staying, grabs all of his stuff, and prepares to just dip out. This has gone fucking sideways. He's just gonna cut and run. Unfortunately, before he's done packing, the gangsters goon squad shows up at his house. Looks like Joe anticipated this when he was making those paint can contraptions, which we learn are bombs. He drops them down the spiral staircase into the first floor of the building that he's been staying in.
Love an IED.
And they do what they were meant to do, which is blow the fuck up in spectacular fashion. It decimates the kill squad that was sent after him. But when he comes down and surveys the aftermath, he sees one of the goons wearing that digital watch he gave Kong at the start of their working relationship. So he asks him where Kong is. And the guy's like, why does it matter? And Joe's like, because he's my student, and shoots the guy.
I was say, he shoots him right in the fucking head, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And so then he turns to the next surviving goon. He's like, all right, so where the fuck is he? He's like, he's with the boss. He's like, all right. So the gangsters are watching the news.
Wait, doesn't he kill that guy too? If I remember correctly. No. Oh, I thought he did. Okay, sorry about that.
No. We're gonna get there.
Okay.
So the gangsters are seeing like the fallout of this failed political assassination, wondering what the fuck is happening. Joe goes to see Fawn. She is he like talks to her mother or grandmother or whoever. Fawn is in the background in the living room, and Joe makes the same sign of thank you that he did when she first helped him out with the disinfectant or whatever that he got from the pharmacy. And then he walks off. Fawn reconsiders and races out of the house after him, but Joe's already in a vehicle driving away, not looking back, both literally and symbolically at this point. So Joe rolls up on the compound of the head gangster, and we learn that the gangster who told him where Kong was kept alive in the trunk of the vehicle for good reason. This goon is placed directly in front of the camera, in front of the gates, and gains Joe access to this compound. And this is where we get an absurd dismantling of this compound's defenses and guards by Joe. Joe uses this goon as a human shield and shoots his way into the place. We see Kong and the dancer are being held together in a locked room somewhere within the compound. And Joe just systematically dismantles this place. He's like hiding in trash, shooting guys out of windows. They've got these spotlights. They're trying to find him. He shoots out the spotlight and shoots them several times. This repeats itself.
It's Metal Gear Solid shit he's pulling here.
It's pretty funny.
He's walking around in a box.
Yeah. He's throwing fucking Playboys in front of dudes to distract him.
Smuggling cigarettes in his stomach.
Using those cigarettes to show the lasers.
Yeah. He cuts power to at least a portion of the compound at one point. And then there's like a great scene where he's like sneaking around and like a guard comes through a door in front of a bunch of empty like water jugs for like water coolers, and Joe like shoots him through it and then like knocks down the water jugs, and a bunch of guards start running in the door. And this is my favorite portion of this action sequence because Joe just runs away.
Sometimes that's the correct choice. Sometimes you got to roll that morale check and like fucking book it.
Yeah. It's funny. It sticks out in my mind because there's like this like deep like purple lighting in the scene, and you got all those fucking the semi-reflective plastic jugs, and he shoots the guy through him, and then he knocks him down, and you get that wonderful cacophony of noise, and then guards just start pouring in that door, and then you just see Nic Cage just hauling ass down a hallway while guys try and shoot at him. Very solid. Joe finally finds himself in a face-to-face conflict with the main henchman of the gangster boss. There's a weird scene here. They're like trading pot shots with each other, and Joe clearly empties the magazine on his pistol. Like the slide is locked back. He has nothing, and the main bad guy is like hiding around the corner, and Joe just holds the pose there with a gun that is effectively useless for an absurd amount of time. But when the gangster guy like looks around the corner, Joe has disappeared. The main gangster guy reloads. He goes to peek back around the corner, and Joe is there and knocks the gun wide. And now they're in a hand-to-hand sort of conflict situation. And the way this fight ends is probably the most suspension of disbelief breaking moment in the film. Joe slams the guy up against a door or a wall, and then takes a grenade, pulls the pin, and then
I
wedges
loved it. There's no
between
fucking
the
suspension
goon
of
and the
disbelief.
wall, and then just sort of crouches down as the man is blown literally in half.
Yeah, no, it rules. It's so cool. I didn't need suspension of disbelief. It's the rule of cool, baby.
I agree entirely. We get the last scene of the dude just his torso.
Like he could have knocked the guy on the ground, stood on his back, and then surfed the top half of his body, and I still would have been like, "Cool." That's still within the context of the
movie. That would have been real fucking cool.
It would have been so cool.
It was a badass kill. Do not get me wrong.
It's this and the boat kill are the two cool moments of the movie. I mean, there's some other cool stuff, but those two.
I was wondering what your other
up.
Kill that you liked was. I should have immediately known it was the grenade wedge kill.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's everything I love about action. Man got in half.
So Joe finds Kong and gives him a gun and tells him to get out of there with his dancer lady friend, and then goes to kill Surat, the head gangster, whose name we learned only when Joe was interrogating the dying goons when they attacked his house.
Yeah.
So that's the head gangster's name. So Surat is fleeing the scene in a car with his cronies, and Joe is in hot pursuit on foot. He jumps out of a fucking window, slides down some trash, and is just firing pistol shots into this car that is for some reason reversing. It's just going in reverse to get away, which seems like a bad plan. Excuse me. Joe fires into the car, killing the driver. The car rolls to a stop. All of the gunshots and action here has drawn the attention of the police, and they start converging on the scene. Now, at this point, Surat and his one remaining henchman bodyguard are cowering in the back seat. Surat is urging his bodyguard to do what fucking bodyguards do and deal with this crazy man with a gun outside the car, which causes him to try and pop out and get a beat on Joe, which means he is killed almost immediately. So the cops are now forming a perimeter around the location. This is not looking super great as far as escape options are concerned. Surat is scrambling and tries to grab a gun from one of his dead enforcers, but freezes when Joe presses the barrel of his pistol against the back of his head. So Joe gets in the car at this point and is holding the gangster at gunpoint. He thinks again about Rain running away from him in fear. Coincidental timing, the dead driver sort of slumps down dead more, like a convenient repositioning of a dead body. But this causes the car to start moving, and it rolls towards the gates where just outside the police perimeter line is waiting. It triggers the sensor line to open the gates, and the car rolls out and hits something and stops, right? Joe puts his head directly up against the gangster's head and then puts his pistol to his opposite temple.
It's not nearly as poignant as the 1999 version. And apparently there's an alternate version where none of this shit happens. And fucking they walk away, I guess.
And he gives him a bonus.
Shit, you mean what happens directly next, which is Joe pulls the trigger, blowing his brains out, and then the bullet passing into the gangster's head, killing him as well.
Specifically that, yes. Apparently there's some Kong MacGuffin bullshit where Kong had a plan and Kong saves his ass, and then they get away.
So the point at this point, the scene fades out on Kong, who is looking appropriately devastated, shocked, beaten up. And then the very last scene of the film, and I want your guys' take on this. I think we see Kong from before all this. He looks younger, mildly happy. He's wearing his bright button down, and he's just like on a dock or a portion of the Bangkok streets, and then the credits roll.
Yeah. I
Have you ever seen a one-trick pony in a field so happy and free? Have you ever seen that one-trick pony? Then you've seen me.
So I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't love it either.
I didn't hate I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I did enjoy it.
There is stuff to enjoy. I'll agree with that.
I was bored. Like
that's how I felt most of it.
Outside of like the few like cool kills, like there were times that Josh was talking through this. I'm like, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah.
And I watched this fucker 3 times.
I only watched it the once, but like within the context of the original version, I was able to like kind of remember what happened in the 2008 one.
Gotcha.
Just because the 1999 one was so much cooler.
Well, like, no, I watched it the first time and I realized like 3/4 of the way through, I'm like, I don't know how we got here. What the fuck? So I stopped and I started watching it again. And the beginning of the movie stuck, and we got to the end. I'm just like, wow, how the fuck did we get here? And I watched it a third time.
Days go by, water flowing under.
Well, first of all, the scene by scene is why you guys keep me on the paywall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second of all, what I got from this, honestly, was I got vibes of like precursor John Wick shit, right?
Yeah.
Like John Wick leaned way more into world building, but all of the other elements of a cool guy protagonist with
someone who's
violence.
Really good at kill.
Yeah, like a lot of violence, but personal code, but also an underlying sense of, I wouldn't necessarily say morals, but probably
no. Morals definitely falls into what that means. It's morals are a personal code, ethics are a cultural code. So I would say morals are the correct term for that personally.
So it's ethics of his professional code versus his personal morality.
His personal morality.
I wouldn't even say that morality came into play here. What it was his overwhelming desire for human connection. That explains Kong and Fawn. Both of those. He saw himself in Kong, and he actually felt some human connection with Fawn, and that, I mean, ultimately led to his fucking death. If we're being
because it's him
breaking
his rules, which his rules don't necessarily square away with what his morals are. True. I think the morals are what shine through and cause him to have those personal connections, whereas his rules, which would be like you said, the professional ethics, are what might have kept him alive.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is don't have any principles. They will get you killed.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a hitman,
man. It's the Groucho Marx line. It's like, those are my principles, and if you don't like them, I have others.
I love the Marx Brothers.
But no, like I said, I got real laying the groundwork vibes for shit that everybody fucking loves today. Now, don't get me wrong, the John Wick movies are entertaining and enjoyed for a number of reasons. One of them isn't just going whole hog on this elite assassin trope in the world building, but also their fight scenes, which is all done by the guy who witnessed Hollywood gun safety gone horribly wrong in the case of The Crow, then taking a hard line and still showing you can make a badass movie without putting people at fucking risk.
Well, so, like a lot of the reason why the John Wick action scenes work is because they have a good cinematographer and the choreographer knows how to do fight narrative. Like story narrative and fight narrative are two different things. I think, Rich, you probably have a good context for this because of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling does fight narrative exceptionally well because it knows that you have to have a certain flow of information in the hits that happen and the responses to those hits. And I think a lot of action movies don't do that well.
Right, which is why I find boxing and MMA so fucking boring.
Right, exactly, because it's not selling a narrative, it's just telling
a fucking fight.
It's just a fight. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the other reason why they're successful is because they're self-aware enough to make the conscious decision to dive in with both feet. You know what I mean? But in fights and the narrative, they're like, this seems fucking crazy. And they're like, yeah, but it's cool. So fucking do it. And then the fights drag on. They're like, this is fucking crazy. And they're like, yeah, but it's awesome. So let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I get hints of that from this.
There's like speckled hints of it. It's not cohesive enough that I would consider it an excellent action movie, but I think it's like a C plus.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm honestly willing to.
It does not get a failing grade.
I'm willing to grant some extra fucking credit just for the boat scene.
The boat scene
that
was so
alone
sick.
was very solid and grounded enough. Like it was bonkers, but the movie tried to be grounded with its overall story and action. And so to pull off a scene like that in that context, kudos. There you
Absolutely. What I find really funny though is this has better action scenes than the original, but I think the original is a better movie. The original is way more low budget than this.
Gotcha.
To the point where I think there is maybe there's two scenes where you see a gun go off and then you see the direct response to what happens with that gun. Other than that, it's mostly like just dudes falling over. They did not have money for squibs or blood packs or anything like that, but they made it work through the editing. Whereas this, I think they made it work more through the special effects in the few cases where I think it did actually work.
Yeah, I again, without the context of the original, I do
We'll have
agree
to do
with
a
what you're
Patreon
saying.
for it.
Yeah. As far as this one is concerned, not great, not bad, solid middle tier. Although it wouldn't be able to beat any of our middle tier heavyweights. But in this film's defense, our middle tier heavyweights are fucking monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the middle of the middle.
I guess what we're learning is that Nic Cage was in a lot of great films, and everything lower than that is just okay. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah, it's tough. It's examining it in this particular context. You realize that cream rises to the top, and Cage is 90% cream.
Yep. And cash rules everything around me.
Fuck yeah, it does. And there's our Wu-Tang reference.
There's our Wu-Tang reference.
Another well we go to often.
Because it's for the children.
They are for the children. All right. So yeah, that's got to close us out for this one. Rich, tell us what's next. What do we got coming up?
So I checked it out, and it's a movie that I have never seen nor heard of, but given the time and looking at this cast list, I have a feeling that this is going to be a movie that one of us is going to love.
Is it me? Am I the weirdo that's going to love it?
And one of us is going to hate, and one of us is going to think it's okay.
I'm going to fucking hate it because I can already tell, and I'll tell you why. The movie is called Army of One. Now, the cast list for this, outside of leading man Nic Cage, is Rainn Wilson, Wendy McClendon-Covey, who people know as the blonde cop from Reno 911.
Yeah.
Russell Brand, Paul Scheer,
fucking Will Sasso.
Now, this is why I think I'm not going to like it. Josh, what do I bitch about more than anything about this podcast?
Will Sasso?
No.
Russell Brand, who is a stupid person's idea of a smart person.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's that I hated the end of 8mm because it got recut, right?
Yes.
Oh, did this have like weird recuts?
In a 2020 interview, Cage revealed that the released version of the film was recut by Bob Weinstein without the director's permission, and the latter's original version remains unreleased.
Oh, bummer.
So I'm going to need the Larry Charles cut of this fucking movie.
Russell Brand plays God?
Yes.
No!
Yeah.
No!
This movie might fuck.
Dennis O'Hara's in this.
Paul Scheer's character's name is Pickles.
Yeah, it is.
Just gonna throw this out there. Dennis O'Hara, one of my favorite performances of his was in Michael Clayton. He shows up for 5 minutes as the douchiest rich guy who just committed a hit and run you've ever seen. and you just get to watch George Clooney dress him down in just the most brutal fashion.
Yeah.
Fantastic scene in a fantastic movie. Highly recommend. All right, so housekeeping is going to be easy on this. And the fucking tagline is absurd. Dude gets a visit from God and decides to go try and kill Osama bin Laden.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I guess.
I'm all in. Also, by the way, old looking Nic Cage, beard and ponytail hair.
Ooh, that's some good Cage hair.
That's
All
good
right.
Cage hair.
Yeah, it's good Cage hair.
I'm very ready for this film. But
I'm
I think
legitimately excited for it. I'm gonna enjoy this one.
I think I'm gonna hate it for the same reasons I hate 8mm, because I'm expecting it to be like there's a movie in there that I would fucking love.
I feel like I might hate this mess in a way where I also love it.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the trailer with no audio whatsoever. I'm gonna love this movie. I'm telling you right now. It looks bonkers, and Cage, again, just from the facial expressions, Cage is it's peak Cage.
I believe it.
excited
Like
for this
a film idea like that. I
Oh
think
my
he's got
god, this guy
some
was a
moves.
real guy.
Yeah, I knew that.
He
Cool.
he went to Pakistan carrying a sword, pistol, night vision goggles, a map,
Wait,
and a Bible.
I
Save
need
it,
more
save it,
context
save
on the
it.
sword.
It
Save
just
it.
says sword.
I need to
Save
know
it.
what kind of sword. Is it a scimitar?
We are going to
Is it
dive into it on the episode. You gotta leave them
broadsword?
wanting more, baby.
Did he bring
Come
a fucking
on.
Zweihander?
I'm throwing us right into the
All
outro,
right,
guys.
okay, all right.
All right, we are going to dive into not only this movie, but this real man's insane fucking life next time. You gotta come back, okay? In the meantime, check us out on social media. You can find us on Twitter at cagefight_pod. Rich, hit him with the Patreon.
Patreon.com/Nic Cage Fight. $1 a month. Not only will it get you every episode without ads, it will get you this guy's fucking Pakistan sword.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that. That's false advertising.
Limitations apply.
It may be a
but-
reproduction. It
maybe
it might be me just drawing a sword on a piece of paper and mailing it to you.
we might forge it ourselves.
Out
tell
of
you what, though.
meteorites, like Terry Pratchett did when he was knighted.
Yeah, that meteorite might just be the frozen hunk of shit that they drop out of airplanes, like in Joe Dirt, a movie we won't be covering on this podcast. You never
no.
know.
You just challenged me. I will find a way. I will
Find
find the
it.
connection. I'm gonna.
Find it. It's the degrees of Nic Cage.
It's degrees of Nic Cage. We're gonna talk about Joe Dirt because I have a friend who would love to talk about Joe Dirt, and I think she'd be a fun fucking guest star on the podcast.
There you go. Also, I unironically love Joe Dirt.
So do I.
Joe Dirt is very funny.
Joe Dirt has correct opinions about fireworks.
It does. Shit, now if we do review that, I've got to recite that entire scene from memory. So I will start working on that while you work on finding the connection. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in, listeners. Check us out next time when we review an insane fucking movie called Army of One. And as always, please remember, we appreciate you.
Bye.